Hey, everybody, and welcome to Ukraine Update, a very late edition, as you can see today, but we're going to struggle along and get to it. We had some serious tech issues as we were building up to the show, and unfortunately, we can't solve Commander McMillian's issues. So, hopefully the gremlins of technology will step in and maybe it'll sort out and he'll be able to join us. But yeah, we tried and tried and tried. So yeah, we got Greg Terry in with us, of course, today. How's it going, Greg?
It's going wonderful, Dick. It's nice to see you. You've been rocking and rolling all day, trying to learn how to do Nightbot better. The mods are helping. It's like crazy and going to be good, but that's a major deal. Also, working on a video right now with Professor Gerdes, and did some trim work in the studio where I'm placing my piano. So been busy day. Yeah.
Awesome.
We gotta be jamming some tunes, dude.
Yes. I've got my whole setup here ready to go anytime. Good. And yeah, we got Slavie in today, of course, with us as well. How's it going?
It's going good. It's been an interesting week, but we're here now.
Yes. When I think, just like the thumbnail, I think we know where we'll be starting off today and going from. But, yeah. And we got Jana in with us, of course, from Project Constantine. How's it going?
It's good. I'm going to echo Slavie and say it's been a completely crazy week. I'm just looking at everything and I'm like, I like this timeline. Like, I want normal, like just.
Yeah.
So.
And we got Nick Suter in from In Time with us. And of course, because he's on, that's really why we were so late, right?
That is, anybody who's watched the show, they know it's in time, not on time. And when I am a jinx, I am a pox upon your house. If you invite me in, you're not starting the show on time. So yeah, but it's very good to be here. Thank you for having me.
And we got Phil Ittner with us from On the Edge and News of the World. And how's it going, Phil?
Good. For now, quiet here in Kiev. Could change on a dime. I am convinced that Greg is bragging about bringing a piano into his studio to try and one-up me on the quality of my studio. And sir, you will lose that fight.
I'm
very proud of our studio.
You have a drum kit, Phil. That's the only thing.
I can't compete with the legendary Phil Ittner. So if you can't join him.
We have a good weekend for the show, for the unit, the On the Edge guys, because it's not just me. There are lots of folks behind the scene. We have I put out a video today. It runs about 12 minutes long, talking about the week that was. Zelensky's trip to the U.S. And what happened at the UNGA, which I'm sure we'll talk about here later in depth. And then tomorrow, as usual, every week, 2000 hours, 8 p.m. Kiev time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific. Work that out between yourselves. We'll be putting out our weekly interview show, which this week we have in our glorious, wonderful, beautiful studio that has been constructed ever so lovingly with precise decision and reason, instead of just putting up some sort of monitor behind you and bringing in a piano. We will have
shots fired.
We will have the fantastic young somebody who makes me feel really, really old, journalist starting out in his career in a very different media landscape than my career in. We're going to have tomorrow on Dylan Burns, and we talk about what media is, why media is failing so horribly here in Ukraine. What it is to work in this new environment, which means like staying up for hours and hours on Twitch, which this old man will never understand. Arguing and stuff like that. but also his real substantive, actual on the ground news gathering that he does here. So this old man has lots of confusion about the media landscape. But talking to guys like Dylan, I get a little bit of optimism because I think citizen journalism, I think guys out there doing it their own way is a really positive thing. But it's unfortunate that we have to struggle for an audience share when guys who parachute in here for 2 weeks get an audience on the evening news or whatever have you, where their understanding is about this surface thin.
Right.
So,
they were briefed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's those who know me know that I will get on my soapbox. So shut me up, Dick, when you need to. But other than that, that's my spiel. That's my introduction, which lasted 5 minutes.
let me do a couple of shout outs because there's already like a list full here that I can run through, and then we'll get right into Zelensky and Trump and then just see where it evolves and stuff, right? So we got Matt Leach Music in for new Shills Apprentice, UTV and Ham there. Don't put in a $10 shout. Matt Leach Music with a shout as well. Yvonne Way with a shout. Arthur Miller with a cool sticker as well. Michael Michaels in with a shout out. Janine's birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, cool. Here, watch this. Happy birthday.
Wait, it's Janine's birthday?
Yeah.
Can I teach you guys how to sing happy birthday in Afrikaans?
Let's do at the end of our shout outs here because there's more birthday shout outs. There's UTV and Ham in with a happy birthday shout out. White Fishy one with a super chat shout out for birthday shout out. Linda H giving out a Shills membership. Thank you. Yvonne Way, happy birthday, Janine. Johnny Nedregard. Because it helps the algorithm. Greg, big shout out. Hey, thanks. Bethra Olsen, her 129 Swedish kroner smoking thing. I put it down with love to Ukraine
initiative.
Thank you. I try to say it my way because it doesn't sound as bad for me.
No, but it sounds like you're encouraging smoking, which is kind of like with her. It sounds like you're saying she's smoking, which may be. Never mind. Just read the thing.
It's just how it works. Thanks, Beth. We got Little Dickens renewing at Shills Apprentice. Thank you. And Yvonne Way gifting out 5 Shills memberships. So thank you, everybody. Huge hearts to all. And I got caught up. So let's see here. Who wants to start? Because I know everybody's in on this for sure. Zelensky and Trump.
Very slow, and then everyone can just build up.
I want to start with just one thing because it has to be said now and can't be said later, which is Dick just said we're all caught up. It is 3:40 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern time. The show was supposed to start, and this is what he calls caught up. We are now caught up. All right, good. Glad to know. Thank you, Dick. Your leadership has been inspiring. Sorry for interrupting.
You were there. You know how much of this was my fault. Never mind.
I do, but you can't make me admit it publicly.
Yeah, if anything, we can blame you because you made a switch to Teams to try to fix it, and I knew it wasn't gonna.
It was a democratic decision to switch.
Yeah,
but he led the charge, right?
No, and I actually, it was an insurrection, and I did lead it, and I stand by that.
I used to work with professionals. I swear to God. What am I doing? What have I become? What have I become?
Let's let our sort of guest, because Phil's around enough that you're not really a guest anymore. You're more like a regular. But let's give you the reins. Let's give you the reins of the carriage. And yeah, well,
wait. I have a penchant for going on.
I just want to say that Helena saw a photo of Trump and Zelensky. And she sent me a message and told me, "Is this photo real?" And I sent her like a voice note explaining everything. She's like, "That's weird." So,
oh yeah,
okay,
it was so awkward stuff.
Do we want to? Do we want to you want to dive in with that one? There's a lot of others that.
Well,
we'll dive into the Trump Zelensky meeting.
Yeah, we put it on the thumbnail, so we might as well touch it first and then run around.
All right. I mean, so awful, so awful, so awful. His body President Zelensky's body language was just, he knew, I think, and I'm not an expert on these kind of things, but just except for having, interacted with humans, I think he realized this might have been a bit of a mistake. Trump, in his usual fashion, tried to, command the entire situation. Yeah. Even going so far as to, saying, "I love Putin" right in front of Zelensky, a guy whose country is being, Ukrainian children are dying every day, and this idiot is praising the guy who's the cause of it ultimately
in front of
it. And but then unfortunately, and everybody is praising his discipline, and I do too. I would have gone in there and immediately just smacked the heck out of that's for you, Pastor. Out of the orange idiot. But I do think he lost his temper, or if not his temper, his discipline. There's that moment which everybody is talking about.
It was a slow boil, and it was constantly very.
Yeah, and there's that moment that everybody's talking about, where Trump is saying, I'm also a great friend with Vladimir Putin, and I love him, and he's great. And President Zelensky, you're standing right there. You can't let that go. So he says, as he has to, and I think probably had been bubbling up, I hope we're seeing as we're allies and we're fighting for democracy on your behalf, that we would have a better relationship than whatever good relationship you think you have with Putin. And I get why he said it, and it was important that he said it, and it was impossible for him not to say it. Had he just sat there, that would have been awful. But when he did interrupt Trump, who loves when he's on stage, it's me time. The spotlight's on me, baby. I am Donald Trump. And when President Zelensky said, I hope we have a better relationship than you have with Putin, he kind of, you notice how he does it. He turns and he says, "Oh yeah, sure, right." And then he turns back to the camera, but realizes that he has been that he has to regain the spotlight. He has to regain the power and the control. So he says, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
You miscreant, you despicable excuse for a human being to try and pull alpha male BS.
Yeah.
Again, for you, Pastor. For you to try and pull that alpha male baloney with a guy who, while his city was being bombed and tanks were on his doorstep, and there was no guarantee that he was going to walk away from this alive, said, "We're here. We're standing here." Trump has no concept of that kind of courage. Absolutely none whatsoever. It was disgusting. It was upsetting. And it is the entire week, and we'll go into this in greater detail once I step off my soapbox. I did warn you. That the entire thing was turned into a partisan battle. Yes. It wasn't about Ukraine. It wasn't about Zelensky. It was about the GOP, and it was about the Harris Waltz ticket, which and the Biden
administration, to say the least.
Really, really, really depressing. So the whole week was that, and again, but that meeting ended up with Trump, and especially that kind of alpha male stuff that he tried to pull with one of the greatest leaders in our living history was awful. Yeah. Okay. Off the soapbox.
Yeah.
I warned you.
I'm gonna jump in because I want to kind of springboard, mildly disagree, but for the most part agree. He did have to say that. I was genuinely impressed that he said that. If he didn't say that, it would have aired like everywhere on propaganda. So he absolutely had to. So here's a guy, I think that was a calculated decision, and I don't even think that was out of anger. And the reason is the worst thing Trump said probably in his entire life was it takes two to tango. No, not even just in that thing, but in his life was it. And Zelensky did not lose it.
Can I
two things that need to be made.
Can I build on that just really quickly? Number one, Trump says, oh, Zelensky wasn't willing to make a deal, blah, blah. And that rhetoric that's coming out of his mouth, by that logic, if Trump would have been in power, he just would have gave Pearl Harbor away. Oh, here, go ahead. No big deal. Like, that makes no sense to even utter out of your mouth. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
So the 2 points that I think bear being made, and we don't make these very often because we're just so used to it, I think. The first is there is no war in Ukraine. There is genocide in Ukraine, and those are two different things. We've seen a lot of wars. We haven't seen, we've seen a lot of genocide too, to be quite honest. But the reality is you can't call Putin Hitler because we've gotten so used to everybody on Twitter going Hitler, Hitler, Hitler that it has no meaning now. But the reality is he wants to end the Ukrainian people, and he wants to end Ukrainian culture. You can tell that because when he's kidnapping these children, if he wow. So he kidnaps the children and he puts them in the furthest reaches of Russia. This isn't to make them harder to rescue, and this isn't to be able to deny that he's kidnapping them, because he's admitting that he's rescuing these children. It's so that the impure Ukrainian blood is as far away from being able to reproduce and to sully the pure Russian blood, and yada yada. And if you know what the radio intercepts and the soldiers talking about how they are required to, I'm not going to say it, but they're things that they are required to do to ensure that the Ukrainians that survive can't reproduce what they do to the soldier. It is genocide, period. So that's the first thing that we have to. So during a genocide, he said it takes two to tango. And if you want to put that in perspective, just say, okay, imagine it's 1942. And, somebody, Roosevelt, whoever, comes up and said, well, when it comes to Nazi Germany and the Jews, it takes two to tango. Yeah. That's what he said, period. And I have no other way to deal with it. The other thing is, at this point, and I've said this before, and I think the reality is, Zelensky isn't doing all this alone. He's putting people, commanders. He's not the world's greatest military leader. He's getting the best military leaders he has, and he's following their advice and doing what they tell him. But he's still extraordinarily skilled militarily. He's extraordinarily skilled diplomatically. And when you take a look at the skill set that he has and is applying here, he is the closest historical figure that I can think of in recent history is Winston Churchill. For most Americans, they're like, well, so the fuck what? I mean, Winston Churchill was just no, if you know what this guy did, and if you know how much this guy accomplished in his life, that is an extraordinary fucking thing. And Americans don't have in our history very many people like Winston Churchill. And Zelensky has really reached that mark. And I think how he handled that.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. We have to go that far back. We have to go literally to the founding of our country to get someone like Churchill. And this isn't hyperbole, and this isn't to sit here and pump up Ukraine. I'm sitting here saying, just look at the facts. Look at how he handled being told that the genocide of his peoples takes two to tango. And he did what was politically expedient, because if he doesn't, he has zero chance, especially if Trump goes into office.
Yeah,
I think he handled that masterfully. You could absolutely tell he was enraged, but that was for a clusterfuck, which it was, that was the most beautifully handled clusterfuck I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's my view.
Nick, I actually want to, you mentioned that, Russia moving the Ukrainian children to like the furthest part of Russia is almost like to cleanse the impurity of Ukraine. I know Timothy Snyder had a different approach to it, and I found quite interesting, where he said it's more to the fact that, like, in his mind, he says that Russia is sending, and I'm specifically not saying Putin, because this is Russia that's a problem. It's not Putin that's a problem. But Russia is sending primarily people from the less white-looking regions. And those are the people who are dying in heat waves in Ukraine. And Timothy Snyder made the point, the English is a language, I can't think of the word, but he made the point saying that in a sense, Russia is using Ukrainian children to kind of cleanse their own demographic and kind of phase that out. So it poses this weird question that, or it creates this weird problem where on the one side, Russia is saying Ukrainians are impure, they're not proper people, they're not decent people. And on the other side, these kids are being sent to regions that are not quote unquote white Russian.
They're not ethnically Russian yet.
Ethnically Russian. So it creates this entire weird duality, and I think it just leaves everyone thinking, like, what the hell is going on? And I know Greg has spoken about it in the past, where, like, the whole thing of Russian propaganda is to kind of make you question what is actually true. So everything feels as if it's too much to be true, like it's this can't possibly be true. So eventually you're like, what is truth even? Like what is truth?
You know
like,
you know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
Nick, can I answer Jana's question? Unless you want to flesh out your question a little bit further, Jana.
No, it's just it's not really.
I'm sorry to.
No apologies.
Grab the wheel again for just a quick second, and I will be brief. Because they're Slavs. They're still ethnically Slavs, so they're okay with that. So they can send. They're just Russians who have been corrupted and they've been seduced away from the beloved bosom of the Rodina and the mother, and so let's send them to those icky brown people places out in Central Asia and the Caucasus and what have you. They're just misguided Slavs. So let's plant the seed there. So it's not contradictory in my opinion. We talk about this. There's an episode on my show, because I'm going to shamelessly plug. I talk about this with Terrell Jermaine Starr, who talks about ethnicity within the Soviet Union and how they do have. I mean, there is one race above all others. Yeah, we're a big multicultural country, but unless you're a white Slav, we do treat you differently.
And straight, because they're homophobic as fuck too.
Oh yeah,
and straight as well. So that's worth checking out. And then of course our premiere episode of the show was with Michaela Kuleba, who works so effortlessly or tirelessly to try to get kids back. But yeah, this is all of that's disgusting. But to stand next to a guy who would say all this, Nick, you're absolutely right, and I'll step back.
And I'm sure Hitler heard of this before. I just don't remember where Hitler this has come from. But I think if you look in the history Hitler books, you find that there's a Hitler example of Hitler, somebody in the past that Hitler has done something like Hitler this before. Hitler have no idea what that would be, because I'm Hitler completely uneducated. I am stealing that. I swear to God.
Hey, behave yourselves.
Yeah. So let's see here. Greg, I know you had some content up on the whole meeting of the two, the little and whatnot. What
Yes,
was
sir.
the, what maybe hit you the most, or what gave you the most reaction effect? Like, what was the shock and awe of it? Like, and I know the whole thing pretty much was, but you know what I'm getting at, right?
Sure, I do. But for me, no shock and awe. For me, no big deal, because I have a question for all of you watching. What did you expect? No,
That's a
I'm
really good
dead
point.
serious.
Yeah,
What did you expect?
yeah.
This is an election in the United States where Donald Trump is trying to win. It is 50-50 right now.
Mhm.
One side, of course, will win. And right now, both sides are playing games. Donald Trump is doubling down on anti-Ukraine to push the Republican conservatives that are outside of MAGA into his court, that are
Yep.
kind of on the fence. Everybody knows I'm a conservative. Gertis is a conservative, but we are not MAGites. We're not MAGAs.
Right.
Okay, we're conservative 70s and 80s conservatives. And that party doesn't exist now, so that's a different discussion. But he's trying to win an election. Kamala Harris on the same day, same time, running down to the border, doing her stuff. They're both trying to win an election.
Mhm.
So Donald Trump, take everything from his meeting with Zelensky off the table. The man does not like Ukraine.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know? The
Yeah.
man does not like Volodymyr Zelensky. The man likes people who can exert force, people who can show strength. And I understand Zelensky shows strength, and that was being described so well after the initial bombing. They climb out of the bunkers early in the war and say,
Mhm.
we're still here, bring it on, let's have a fight. Incredible leadership right there. But in the grand scheme of things, Ukraine's still a small country. So Donald Trump is looking towards Vladimir Putin. He's looking towards Xi Jinping. He's looking toward the dictatorship of North Korea. He's looking at what's happening in the Middle East. And I just have a very simple question. What on earth did you expect? Did you expect Donald Trump to say, yeah, you know what? Let's start ripping them to pieces. And instead of 300 kilometers, let's go ahead and smash them 500 kilometers. Let me draw a red line. And if one threat of nuclear, if I even hear a whisper of it, if I become president, I will smash Moscow into oblivion. He would have won the election tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no, he chose to go the complete opposite direction. So was I surprised by it? No, it was just a confirmation. Donald Trump, forget all the political parties.
Mhm.
Donald Trump does not respect Volodymyr Zelensky. I don't care what you see. He doesn't
agree.
respect leaders of small nations. He only respects those that he thinks can have some type of power level. That is why he would say to Volodymyr Zelensky, but Putin and I are buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
What asinine comment is
The
that?
audacity kind of thing,
It's because he honestly believes he is God's gift to the world.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
He
gonna disagree
honestly
with you on
believes
that.
that. So if you want to go the pastorship, if you want to go Christianity, if you want to go to a religious narrative, he honestly believes he is the second coming of Jesus. He believes it right here. He is.
I mean, his followers
He's
also think
bonkers.
that.
Like Antichrist.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to
just don't
I have
expect
one minor
anything else
disagreement.
coming out from Donald Trump. He doesn't like Ukraine.
He hates
That's
Ukraine,
it.
but it's not because it's a small country, and it's not because he doesn't respect small countries. He has no problem with small countries. It's because Ukraine has integrity. That's the problem. I can tell
Well,
you
that's
the
a very
exact
good
moment
point,
that he
Nick.
hated Ukraine. It's when he tried to frame Hunter Biden, and
Yes.
Ukraine refused to
Yes.
do
That's
so.
where I was going to go.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to go.
Had Zelensky
We
done
talked
it,
about this. We
he
talked
would be
about
on
this
Zelensky's
last
side.
night on the 42 show, and that's exactly where this starts. And Trump is not a man to let something go, and this will last until Trump dies. Bottom line.
Greg, can I ask you a question about conservatives in the States?
Yes, sir.
So look, it is my contention that I do not think that Trump can win with just his base. I think he needs to expand it.
Mhm.
There is a Venn diagram of conservatives who may not be MAGA, but who are isolationists. There's a long-standing history of isolationism with caveats during like the Cold War and Reagan Cold Warriors who would put up a fight wherever democracy was threatened or whatever doctrine they would use for it. But there is an isolationist section of conservatism who are not MAGA. Where does that Venn diagram converge? And do you think it's going to influence anything when the vote comes out? Because again, I do.
The
I base think is not enough.
And I'm reading the chat, and I heard Nick's comment, and I want to agree with that. When I said small country, I don't mean small country. I mean nation that has nothing to offer him. Okay, that's what I mean by that. Okay. Something he can gain is the reason I use the term small country, guys. So
I think we're almost misusing the word he has respect for. It's just who he thinks can actually help him in any way. I'm not even sure that's respect.
That's what I mean by it, because you could.
Yeah, and you also that's a good point. He doesn't respect anybody. He is transactional.
That's what I was trying to say. I use the term small country, but really what I mean is if there's no benefit for Donald Trump,
then he don't give a.
You're not on his radar.
NATO is a small country.
You're not on his radar.
Then he don't give a.
Exactly. Okay, I got it. That
now, to answer the question, this is my personal belief. Today, I was working in the studio. We were doing some trim work, getting ready for the keyboard over there.
Sure.
And a guy that was helping me, 70 years old. This is northwestern Pennsylvania, the former Rust Belt. His father was a long-term Democrat, but this is back to the Rust Belt. This is back to the 60s and the 70s and the 80s here north of Pittsburgh. This gentleman also is a registered Democrat, but for the last 20 years, he has voted Republican. He's just on the fence. We talked about it just 3 hours ago, right in front of my microphone. And he asked me, he said, who are you going to vote for? I said, who are you going to vote for? I said, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. He goes, well, I'm not either. But I'm just going to tell you what he said.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure I can vote for her either. I said, I understand that. Then you're going to get into the narrative. One, not a vote's a vote for the other and all of that stuff. Don't want to talk about that. Don't want to talk about that.
Exactly.
We're answering a question.
I've heard this exact thing from quite a few people now when they actually interview people.
Brother, on both sides, you've got far, mid, and then middle. Okay? So I honestly believe, to answer your question, Phil, when people walk into that booth at the last second is where they make their decision. Those that are on the fence.
Greg, do you think there's going to be a thing where people just decide, you know what, I can't pick between either of these, and I'm just not
many, my opinion, many will not vote.
Do you think there's going to be a drop in voter turnout?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I can tell you many will not vote. And the second thing is many decisions will be made when they walk in, they sign their name on the list at their polling station, they confirm it with their driver's license, and that's my address. I'm going in to vote. You go to your private area, they see the box in front of them, and they go, wait a second.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah, that explains why a lot of the polls are so wrong over the last couple of goes as it pertains to elections and stuff, right?
Well, and I think you can actually...
Yeah, well, it's kind of always like that in some ways. I mean, it really is. It comes down to that moment. It's kind of the beauty and the terror of a democracy. But I want to articulate my question slightly better, Greg, if I could get your answer on this. Is the Venn diagram that I'm talking about is guys who may not be MAGA, right? They're not fans of Trump, but they are interventionists, they are isolationists, and they are terrified of what might happen with a direct confrontation with Russia over Ukraine. Where do you think Trump will be able to draw from that voter base solely based on his anti-Ukraine, his let's not support this country fighting for its freedom because it's scary? we might go into the Third World War.
And let me ask you a question back on that before I answer. Watching mainstream media, we now are caretakers for my mother-in-law, and people that are here that support my channel or are active in my community, they know. And she watches the news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if she's not sleeping. Literally. And I go to her and I say, Mima, what are you watching? Well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this country. I'm trying to figure out. I said, well, just ask me and I'll tell you. She goes, no, I've got to watch it. I said, what are you watching? Well, I watch Fox, but then I go watch CNN, and then I go watch MSNBC. And even in her state of mind, she personally is flipping around, trying to figure out the answer. So I honestly, Phil, do not think there is an answer to that. I still stand by that no diagram this particular election is going to work. I was watching some statistics last night. I sat down with my mother-in-law for a little bit, watched some news with her, be the nice son-in-law. And there was a major voting issue and polling issue that was covered on all the channels that we were watching. And it was conservative, non-conservative, and left, right, all of it. And abortion was one of the major issues, not just Ukraine, that is causing polling numbers to take place in different regions of the country. So then you have the border, our personal border. It doesn't matter if you're on the Republican or the conservative news sites, or you're on the left, liberal, progressive, Democrat, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. MAGA, no MAGA. They're all polling right now on four main issues: border security, economy, global security, spearheaded by Ukraine and Israel. Do not forget that one. Nasrallah was just smoked into oblivion, and we will see that region crank up into a more heated exchange unless something changes very, very quickly. And then fourthly, abortion. You have to mix it all in. We can't just think only Ukraine when it comes to the election, because for the most part, unless you're on YouTube with all of us sharing the truth, you get random, very limited access to truth about Ukraine.
I guess I asked because, again, Trump, I don't think can win just with his base. But if he can get some of these other guys who have issues that converge with him, even though they may not like the MAGA movement or him, that's where we get into trouble.
Phil, with that statement, I 100% agree with you. 100%. Remember, though, Robert F. Kennedy has dropped and now campaigning with and for Trump. What effect will that have? I don't know the answer to that. What effect will that have?
I'm gonna
let's ask the worm.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Trump's numbers are going to go up just a little bit more, and it's going to be essentially a blue wave for Kamala. And here's why. There is a huge segment of the genuine conservatives who put country over basically anything else. And I think that's very close to the demographic you're talking about, Phil. It's not quite the demographic, but it's adjacent, and I'm going to hop from one to the other. That demographic does not want to vote for Trump. That demographic is also insanely loyal to party, because they believe in, it's the old Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. They will not be disloyal to their party. But having said that, they know that their party, it's gotten to the point of they're just going to vote for someone who's qualified. And even if they hate everything she stands for, she is not going to burn the country down. He may. But the problem is they don't want to vote that way. So what do? Dick Cheney gave them the out. There in the last 50 years, you tell me one more hawkish person who might start World War III from the Republican side than Dick Cheney. And he has publicly come out and said he will vote for Kamala Harris. This is why that is so critically important for all of those. And I think it's a very large number of Republicans who say, my country has to come first, but I will not be disloyal to my party. Dick Cheney just gave them the out. They can now be vocal in their support of Trump, because if they're against him, they're going to get wiped out. He has wiped out the January 6th committee. None of them got reelected. I mean, he is just, so what they can do is they can say, oh, yeah, I'm voting for Trump, knowing full well that Dick Cheney has given them permission to betray the party. Right. That is why if Dick Cheney is telling you that he's voting for Kamala, anybody that's even close to the old guard now knows they can do it. This is going to bump Trump's numbers. Now, we haven't seen the bump, and there's a whole bunch of reasons I would argue for that. But the reason that it's going to have that effect is because now the people can say, oh, I can show that I'm still loyal to the party, but I'm loyal to Cheney and what he said. And there's that is still a significant portion, and Kamala does not need much. He really needs a lot of that center group, and I think they're gonna go towards her. And the group that is worried about war or anything like that, as long as they're not MAGA, they're reasonably sure that Trump is going to be far more likely to destabilize this country than it's got nothing to do with Ukraine, anything else. That's the problem. Anybody who's saying
John McCain, we lost you too soon.
Yeah.
Let me interject here. Let me interject here one thing. I personally feel that it's going to be a razor's edge either way, personally. And I think that for the first time in a long time, the vice presidential debate will actually have an impact on some mentality of people trying to make decisions right now. I really believe that.
His ass, so that could be important.
It's going to be important.
Don't underestimate Vance. Vance has some vectors that he could come at Waltz very, very strongly. So, I mean, I love Waltz.
With the couch?
As a Midwesterner.
Is he going to throw couches at
no.
Waltz? I'm just saying.
No, just Vance. Vance has he can score some points in some pretty ugly stuff that will appeal to a certain electorate. I don't think I agree with the rest of you, but I don't think you underestimate Vance. I think Waltz
is that electorate not already decided though?
I think it's going to have.
It's a good point, but if Vance comes out and wins on a couple of points, whether it's with the border, whether it's with fentanyl, whether it's with the the forgotten Americans, that the hillbilly elegy image that he still cultivates and certain people still believe in. And Waltz is an admittedly bad debater. He has repeatedly said he is, and not surprisingly so. Waltz's strength is the fact that he's a man of the people. He's a guy that goes to the state fair and eats a corn dog with you. He's a guy you go and have a beer with. He goes to what's the fast food place that he went to while he was in Michigan. We have pasties,
the donut shop,
but whatever. Yeah, that's his strength. Being in an auditorium behind a podium with a direct single opponent is not really his shtick, and he says that openly. But he is also the one of the many strengths he still has is that he's your uncle. He's the guy down the street who fixes your carburetor.
I was just gonna say, exactly.
Park your busted down car in your parking lot for a month, while you get the money to get it fixed. And those guys exist, especially in the Midwest. So I think he could win it. He can absolutely win it.
I know Slavie has her hands up. I want to.
Let me just finish with this because they're on American politics right quick. Phil, I completely agree with you. Now, for me, Ukraine. The best thing that Donald Trump ever did to help Kamala Harris was choose J.D. Vance. That was, in my opinion, a mistake.
The losing play. Yeah.
Do not underestimate his ability to communicate in a debate situation, and can it make some adjustments to people that are on the fringe, like we were speaking about, these people that are kind of in that middle area where they're trying to decide what's going to influence them to teeter-totter.
Right.
Yeah, this is what has me concerned.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. We only get into American politics because it actually, obviously, whoever wins, it's essential for Ukraine. So
Slavie,
maybe we should talk something Ukraine.
Well, yeah, let's get Slavie in and see where we go now.
Yeah, I wanted to say, so remember that little hate speech that Trump did 48 hours before he met Zelensky?
Yeah.
Well, after that speech, he changed his mind. And I think there's about 10 million Eastern European diaspora here, voters, 10 million. And I think his points went down, and that's what made him change his mind to meet Zelensky.
Right. That makes sense, because that's the kind of pressure that he would have to listen to, right?
I mean, to add to that, I just saw the headline. But it basically said that Kamala appealed to Polish American.
In her
Polish Americans and
what
in
was that? What speech was that?
800,000.
Yeah. I forget which speech it was. Whether it was her acceptance speech or whether it was it was the debate.
Yeah,
it was the debate. It was the debate where she rightfully pointed out.
Yes.
Again, as a Midwesterner, I grew up partly in California and partly in Michigan. And in the Midwest, we have Pulaski Day. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal, because there are so many Slavs that escaped from the Russian Empire and came to the Midwest of America, whether they were Polish or whether they were Ukrainian or take your pick. Take your pick. Any victim of the Russian Empire. A lot of them settled in the Midwest. And she was so when she said that, I clapped. I was right. And it's an important thing to do. I think any candidate, whether it's Walsh or Harris, speaking to a Slavic ethnicity, descendants of whoever has suffered under the cruelty of the Russians, is a really smart thing to do, and they should do more of it.
Oh, and then there's also Trump with his whole thing where, if I don't win, we can put some good blame on the Jewish community. Like, oh, did he not do well on that one?
When did he say that?
Before he said the other dumb thing and after he said the other dumb thing.
And he said it to a group of Jewish people. Like it was,
he said that during the Jewish, the thing he gave. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was like, you guys weren't that supportive in this one and that one. So we can put some good blame on y'all if I don't win this thing. And people lost their minds, man,
Rightfully so.
White fishy in chat is just like space lasers. And I'm like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is 100% behind the space lasers. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, who's that other batshit crazy one that's come along now, too?
Loomer.
Yeah,
Loomer.
Jigsaw. It's a Jigsaw, actually.
Yeah. Holy man.
But, look, Greg, I touch base with you. You're my window into this world, and there's a reason why on every episode of On the Edge with Philip Hittner that I put the Lincoln quote. Purposely I hired somebody to make this slate for me, and it's from an 1855 letter to a childhood friend who is a slaver. And he says it's the speed letter of 1855 in the run up to the Civil War, where he says, if the know nothings, the MAGA Trumpists of their era, which would ultimately lead us to the Civil War, were to ever take control of this country, I would rather immigrate to Russia. Written in 1855, because at least in Russia they don't pretend to love liberty. They understand only power and that kind of despotism. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing that right now. And it concerns me, this part of America that has always been with us is at a place where they're They have been on an ascendancy. I don't think they're on an ascendancy right now. I think they're in real troubled water. They're fighting amongst one another. But if they are able to gain control, then they will do as Abraham Lincoln said, turn us into a country like Russia, where despotism is taken without the base alloy of hypocrisy. Is I think is the direct quote.
It went by the chat. It went through the chat quite a bit ago, but somebody asked me. I think it was a fella, but they wrote, Greg, I agree with you, but can you just elaborate one more thing about Vance? Sure, I'll be happy to. And I would actually push this to all the candidates, but in particular about Vance. Why? The question was, I agree with you in regard to the wrong decision, but why? Well, it's very simple. Why? Because he's polarizing. And when
charisma matters, man.
The most desperate need in the United States right now, the most desperate need in Ukraine right now. I'll take it to both topics that the people in the program right now are desperately in support of. And first and foremost, we're here to support Ukraine. We're from all over the world on this stream tonight. But right now, we do not need polarizing people that can shock and awe you into support. We need leadership that will bring people together and inspire them to lay down their differences and recognize that there are certain 5, 6, or 7 things that are vital to not only the survival of humanity, but thriving of humanity that crosses borders, that crosses cultures, that crosses color, that crosses language, that crosses religious affiliation. There are certain inalienable intrinsic human values that are in all of us. And right now, the candidates, especially J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, are trying to take those and manipulate those to push fear into society, not only that will affect the American election, but will also affect support, for example, of Ukraine. And then you can take that and extrapolate it out further and further and further. And right now, that is the worst play possible. The worst play possible. We need to come together because we're going to wake up in a very different world come 2024, late 2024 into 2025, and it can shockingly change like this. I remind you of something that happened this week that came into the Florida panhandle there and came and wrecked. We've had over 30 people dead, billions of dollars of damage. And just 4 or 5 days ago, nobody even knew there was a storm on the horizon. And it rallied like that. It swarmed across our coast, killing people, wrecking the economy.
Man.
In a millisecond. And I can tell you right now, we can wake up in a New York minute and have a completely different world in which we are living. And right now we need people that will bring people together and stop bringing division. And we need to have an understanding that there are much greater things that unite us than things that divide us. It's simple. I don't know why. I don't know why people can't get that through their thick skulls, because they're so polarized into their viewpoints. It actually shows their ignorance and stupidity. Somebody give me a platform and a microphone. Come on, Phil, let's go run right now and let's share some truth and bring people together.
We talked about this
another
last
speech
night.
like that, you're going to convert me.
We did this on our after show last night. The whole, it wouldn't be that hard for people to really move forward, society as a whole, if we could just get over a few things and, wow.
Dick, let's make it simple and I'll be quiet and we'll move on. But in the same window of time, and this is what I did my video about. I put it out instantly, and I rarely do quick breaking video updates. I'm more of a live guy, but I'm trying to put out more content, little 7 to 10 minute videos. And I see that people are actually responding and enjoying them and learning from what I'm putting out more regularly like that. So I need to do more of it, but it's a lot of work. because I want to be accurate. But let's take a 4-hour window. 4-hour window. 2 hours in front of when Donald Trump was meeting with Vladimir Zelensky, and 2 hours after. Okay, it was happening about 9:30, 10 a.m. So just let's say 8 to noon. During that window of time where his tone was derogatory towards Zelensky and towards the media, especially the night before when he's talking about, we got to have peace and we got to do what's necessary to bring the peace. And then the way he communicated with certain things he said to Zelensky, especially the statement about, Putin's my friend as well. Okay. At that moment, the Russian army was dropping missiles on Kryvyi Rih. They were dropping missiles on Odessa.
Here.
They were dropping missiles on Kharkiv, and they were dropping glide bombs on Kramatorsk during that 4-hour window.
Wow.
And that is the problem. That's the problem. The world, not us, but in general, when you hear about the Brazilian Chinese peace plans and you hear about Switzerland now wanting to support the Brazilian Chinese peace plan, and you hear more and more and more about possible negotiations and territory concessions and all of this, we have lost the value of humanity in this, and people are being killed right this second while we're talking in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Greg, Rick wants to know, what do you need to run for office?
I need Rick to be my Ukrainian
Campaign.
Ambassador?
Social media manager.
You really bring up a good point, Greg, and it's something we don't talk about enough when we talk about this conflict, because we talk about it in terms of geopolitics. We talk about it in terms of possible threats of nuclear war, or there's an ideological difference, and it's on both sides of the Atlantic. And that is something you touched on. Do you believe that human beings are born with certain inalienable rights? Do you or don't you?
Right.
That's
what
the
it comes
divergence
down to.
point. Because
That's
the
what it comes
Russians
down
don't.
to, yeah.
Of course they
And the
don't.
Russians even Dugin himself says it recently within the last year. He says the concept of inalienable rights was created by Masons and liberals, which, if you've spent any time in Russia, living in Russia, that's exactly it. You are no different than a chicken or a cow. You are chattel. You are means of produce for this. You are a means of production for the state. You are nothing more than that. Whereas in the West and why Ukrainians, because Ukrainians have an understanding of this and a belief in this. Generally, it's a pluralistic society, so I can't say categorically, but do you believe in inalienable rights?
Right.
Do you believe in the idea that a human is not an amoeba? And Trump and his ilk, the MAGA folks, are very utilitarian, are very much power dynamics, are very much about like what is useful for me personally, because a lot of it comes out of greed. It's not even about the state. It's American greed and capitalism. Not that I'm not a capitalist, but there is this strain where it's not about inalienable rights. It's about what do you provide to the country and to the state? What do you provide to me? What can I get from you? It's all binary. There is a section of that with the MAGA crowd, and of course with Russia's history. It's not Dugin. Russia's always been like that. Again, 1855 speed letter. So the fight is the same. So, how do we elaborate that? How do we explain that to the electorate in the United States, that these people are actually fighting for the very same things that our founding fathers fought for? The idea that you're not just the king's capital. You're not just owned by the monarchy or the power structure within your aristocratic European bullshit system. Sorry, Pastor. That's the fight. And the fight is the same on both sides of the Atlantic. Why is it so hard for us to express this message? And
They didn't
I think
actually.
it's in no small part because the media is lost to us. All right, I worked in the belly of the beast for 30 years. It is not doing the job that it needs to be doing, which is explaining what I am saying. This fight is not isolated to Ukraine. This fight is global, and it is whether you believe in an American Jeffersonian democracy or whether or not you believe in the idea that has always plagued us throughout human history of power, binary, who's on top, who's taking it, Amble and Hamburg.
I've said before, Russia didn't actually get rid of serfdom. They just applied it to the whole country after, and therefore it didn't need a name.
Sadly, yeah.
You know. I've got a couple of shout outs I want to get in quick here, just because there was actually a pause I can use.
Phil
So
keeps yapping his mouth.
yeah.
Well, the only thing I did want we need the JFK speech for his inauguration. When he was talking about the Russians, and he said that we have so much more that unites us than divides us, and we all care about our children's future. We all breathe the same air, and we are all mortal. And it's the Russian attitude is that none of that means anything.
You're all just meat for our grinder.
Yeah. That's it. Sorry to interrupt the super chats, but
it must be.
Yeah.
Let me hit a couple of shout outs here. Yeah. We have Kobe Jack in the chat. $30 direct donation for the beer fund. Oh, love you so much. Sometimes life just does what you need it to do. We got Demetrius Ziganovas with a $21 direct donation for the Boom Boom Fund. Thanks, guys. Awesome. And then if I go over to Super Chat Country, we've got SSW Custom Sewing in with a super sticker. Atheist in with a super chat. Camilla Madison with a Swedish kroner super chat there. Kamala must win. I wholeheartedly agree. Godless Scummer, hey dude, how's it going? I remember thinking that George W. Bush was a dangerous lunatic, or as I now call it, the good old days. That is a good one. He's a Brit too, so it's even extra funny because he really nailed that. Then we got Kamala Madison again in with another 65 Swedish kroners. Orban's government blames Ukraine for the war because they resist. What about that? Wow. Yeah, Trump did the same thing with the he won't make a deal. He won't make a deal. This isn't fucking stupid reality TV show, you orange painted lunatic. Well,
not to be crass, but he also feels that way about women.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is something I mentioned on Rick's stream as well, right? Rick had Loza, Pete's commander, on, okay? And it comes down to the fact where a lot of people, a lot of politicians look at it and say it's just land. You can just give up land.
Yeah.
Until you look at what happens to Ukrainians in occupied territories. Pete was telling me about the towns where he was in and where he was part of. The Russians would tie Ukrainian citizens to two separate tanks and then drive apart and split these people in half.
Oh.
People who were in Kharkiv, women there were raped so much, and then Russians injected window sealant into them to make sure they don't get pregnant. Other girls not Kharkiv, Kherson. Other girls in Kherson, like little girls, like 10 years old, were raped so much that the separation between the anus and vagina no longer exists. That is what's going on in occupied territories. That's what's going on under Russian rule. And when you hear absolute assholes like Trump and I don't know who the hell else saying things like, yeah, just, Ukraine should just come to a peace agreement. Unless that peace agreement includes Russia getting the F out of Ukraine, it's not a peace agreement.
Exactly.
It is condemning an entire cities of people to that pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Well, and it would only be
that there's still people that are pro-Ukrainian that think that Trump will be the guy to help Ukraine and not Kamala.
Oh, Yeah, I've heard that.
That's
And
mind-blowingly
even after these last few days, if that wasn't obvious, that he's clearly pro-Putin, pro-Russia, I don't know what planet you're on.
yeah.
Well, and there's
Agreed.
already a peace agreement in place. It's a very good peace agreement. It's called the Helsinki Accords, and that seems to have not done a whole heck of a lot. So when you sit there and say, "Let's do a peace agreement," I don't care what that peace agreement is. It is going to be violated within about 10 years. So it's not a
Yeah.
peace agreement. It's a pause agreement
So
to
we
give
can
Ukraine
build
a
up
little
and get
time
ready. Yeah.
to and both sides are just going to get ready for what's. So there is no such thing as a peace agreement that I'm aware of that would function in this way.
Not
I
with
agree.
Russia.
I've made the equation. I made the equivalency about the death of the British Empire and what they did with Ireland, as not direct 1-to-1, but there are so similarities that it's almost eerie. The British Empire lost Ireland in the Irish War, and then there was subsequent Irish Civil War, and ultimately London maintained dominance in Ulster in the Northern Ireland. It's, to this day, it's British. It's the United Kingdom of British. What is it, of the British Islands, Wales? I'm misremembering. But regardless, they held on to Ulster. So look, and for a long time, that was a major issue because it was part of, and I would argue in some ways, still part of London and England's kind of conception of empire and colony. If Russia is allowed to hold on to Donbass, it will be God knows how long of just continuous conflict and tension and unresolved. It could be hot. It could be cold. I don't know what it's going to look like. The problem, the essential problem that needs to be resolved now, and so it doesn't turn into decades, if not centuries, of conflict like we saw in Northern Ireland and arguably still today. Get them out. They got to go.
Yeah,
91
exactly.
borders. Empire, the concept of empire. It's not only about territory. Their mentality they must accept that they are no longer empire. And furthermore, that we have moved past this concept of empire, that larger nations can, just by right of being larger nations, take smaller nations. They have to be dissuaded of their concept of empire. And I've said that for a long time, not just since Timothy Snyder provided his wonderful speech about that, I think at Harvard, whatever.
One sec, Phil. One sec.
Yeah.
My son's grandma has just rung the doorbell. I'll be about 3 minutes. I'll be right back. Go ahead, everybody.
Well,
I'm going to shut up.
Greg, please don't, because then I might have to, and nobody wants, because
I'm relying on that. You too, Greg. Come on.
My soapbox is a lot bigger than yours.
The lunatics are taking over the asylum. The lunatics have taken over the asylum.
I forgot to say this when Helena and I were on Greg's stream. But just kind of, I know we talk geopolitics. Well, most of the talk that happens here on the show is geopolitics. But as you guys know, both Greg and I, we are very, Greg focuses on the entire front line. Halia and I, we focus on one specific unit within a brigade, But a few days ago, one of the guys he's in Pete's, used to serve with Pete. He was with Pete in Joseph Yar. He's now in the battalion we're supplying. He posted on his Instagram story, he posted the call signs of 5 guys who died on that day. 5 guys. Just gone from the world.
Well,
and
that's...
And Greg, I'm sure you've dealt with that a lot more than we have.
I've lost hundreds and hundreds of friends.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
But-
brings me back to the question then. I mean, I just tell you straight up, unless Ukraine gets more help from the West,
Mm.
they cannot take back the lost territory.
And that's the
Unless
thing.
a
They still win.
victory happens where Russia is defeated. At
Yeah.
this point in time, they do not have the manpower nor the resources to retake occupied territory. That's a fact.
And it means
And I mean,
decades,
at this
if not
point-
Greg, do you think
centuries
that's
more,
deliberate?
as I just
At
said.
this point, it's for the most part, it's volunteer. I mean, yes, there is help from the West, but I think it was Lithuania's foreign minister who said a lot of the things that's been promised by America hasn't arrived yet. But for a big part, a lot of what's holding the line in Ukraine is the work of volunteers.
The
And I
only
mean-
thing holding the line is the work of volunteers. I'll tell you straight, the only thing right now.
Yeah.
So that is not meant to be negative. That's meant to be positive. Can you imagine what we could do with better resourcing from the West? And I know it's like beating a dead horse and a reoccurring nightmare and a reoccurring story, but guys, it's really reality where Ukraine does receive good supply and it comes 4, 6, 8 weeks, and it's where you get the good news going on the front lines, but then it's gone. And
Yeah.
the supply infrastructure is not properly in place from the West, led by the United States and then European nations, to keep the flow steady and solid. But a problem is not only with needing the supply to be consistent, but additionally, mobilization is a problem.
Mm.
I don't care what you read on the newspaper, what you see on the television. I'm there inside Ukraine. Phil is there in Kyiv. Mobilization is a problem. And we're not getting enough training for the newly mobilized troops. Instead of 12 weeks, they're getting 6. They're sent to position and they are killed.
Oh, they're getting 6 now at least. At least they're
At the
getting 6
best.
because at the best, because when we were in the Crimea Forest, it was 2 weeks. Greg, it was
So-
2 weeks. These guys did not know how to zero
know.
a rifle.
I know.
There wasn't enough
I'm on-
ammunition for them.
I'm on the
to shoot on
polygon.
target.
I'm on the training grounds with them all over
Yeah.
Western Ukraine, Central Ukraine,
No.
Eastern Ukraine, Southern Ukraine. I go on the training grounds with their commanders. I'm friends with many of the commanders. I go out there and watch them train. And the commanders look at me and say, I have to send
That's
these
what it
guys. And they're not
And
ready.
they also didn't
Yeah.
have enough ammunition. They were there. They each was allowed to shoot 1 shot. The rifles weren't zeroed. These guys have never shot before. They didn't know how to zero rifles. It wasn't zeroed. They got one shot because there wasn't enough bullets for everyone to have a proper practice session. 2 guys shot on target, and I don't know if that means they're really good or really bad. But out of the
Cheryl
whole
makes
group,
a
2
good
guys.
point there.
It is
Aditya.
improving, though.
Do what?
It is improving. Mobilization, from reports that I'm getting, and also talking to the soldiers who are here on the, got a lot of work to do. No doubt. No doubt. But the mobilization law, once finally passed, is coming online. It
is. But what you need to
I don't know if
understand,
it's going to be fast enough, but it's
it's not that. It's not that. What people need to understand is Ukraine has limited resources, not only on supply, but also on people.
Mhm.
And that limited supply is affecting the mobilization, because when the war began and guys stood in queue by the thousands to sign up, they turned into professional superhero stud storming machines. Now we're at this wave of the war where to get to that level of soldiering capability, they need the 12 and 18 weeks of training at the minimum, and they are having to send them out unprepared. So are they fixing the queue system? Are they fixing it with the online mobilization apps? All of that. That's great. No problem. We're adjusting the age. No problem. The problem is
Training.
they're being
they
killed
prepared for the front?
quickly. Being killed quickly upon deployment because they're not prepared fully. That's
Lieutenant
the problem.
Lieutenant General Benjamin Hodges suggested that this is in some ways actually deliberate on the part of the Biden presidency, that in fact that he is not looking for Ukrainian victory. He is rather just looking that they don't get defeated. And there's a very big difference between that. Do you agree with that sentiment? Is that what you're seeing? And is there a way to fix that, do you think, if that's the problem?
If you're asking me, I personally feel that Ukraine at this point in time is being a sacrificial lamb. And now that they have done so amazingly well over almost pushing towards 3 years of war, there is some revaluing and relooking at this, where they're utilizing this as a war ground for testing against Russia, but not only Russia, China, India,
North
Iran.
Korea.
There is a division right down the middle of our world. And unfortunately, Ukraine is caught in the crosshairs of that. But now we're seeing, hold on, this nation is not going away. These people are fighting for their very livelihood. Maybe some of our strategies need to be adjusted, because I truly believe with all of my heart, I really do, that if Ukraine was supplied, I know they are, but I mean efficiently, logically, and consistently. And in addition to that, received a little bit more help from the West, meaning the United States, NATO, and European nations, where somebody would have the intestinal fortitude to say, Lavrov, for example, sitting in the United Nations in New York City in the United States, spewing his venom about nuclear bombs and don't mess with the nuclear Russia. We need a leader that will stand up and tell them, not only are we going to mess with nuclear Russia, but we're going to push it right down your throat. And if you even threaten it one more time, we will lay Moscow to waste. Stop it. That's how this war changes. Until you get rhetoric to match the evil of Putin and that regime, and then put force behind it, we're going to continue to see the same thing.
Well, I mean, did you see?
Thing that needs to happen
firstly, when it comes to speeches, sorry, I'll be real quick, I'll try to. Be
Yeah,
real
right.
quick,
Okay. Yeah, please. I'm going to take a nap. Tomorrow, wake me up when this is done.
Anybody who's not watched David Lammy's speech in the UNGA should go and watch it right now, because, right after this, because that was fantastic.
So good.
But you're absolutely right.
I feature that in my new video. Amazing.
We'll add in his previous
right,
one. We need to clip both of those.
Lavrov, I mean, forget about it. But I think, there was another point I wanted to make. What was it? I got distracted with Lammy because he was so fantastic. The point you were making, Greg, about not supporting Ukraine. I think you're right, but I think there's an important. Now I recall. I think there's also an important distinction that happened last week that we haven't discussed yet, and that is the transition of language, both from Biden and from Harris, from "we'll support them however long it takes" to victory. Victory. Both of them said it, and that means something. That is not pulled out of thin air. So,
and Phil, I think the thing is that needs to be defined is, what does victory look like?
Good question.
I think
I agree.
This comes down to, what does victory look like? Because it means one thing for Ukraine, and it means something else for other people. Some people look at victory and say, just stop the war. There's no more war.
Sure, it's certainly
That's
an
victory.
improvement from, we're going to support them no matter what they do.
But
Yeah.
I
No,
thought,
wins,
I thought
wins.
Zelensky was doing this trip to do exactly that.
Exactly.
Yeah, the victory
That was-
plan, right?
The victory
Yeah.
plan and the things that need to be done, what needs to be striked, I guess, which positions in Russia, inside Russia. Now they have this plan. In the next, I guess, couple of days, weeks probably, they'll be going through
Implementing
it.
it no matter what.
Yeah.
According to and Jana, for the guys you lost on your section of the line, it's little consolation, I know, but and I think it's also always worth mentioning because it reminds us of the spirit of the Cossack and the Ukrainian. Go read The Stonehewers again from Ivan Franko. We're gonna keep striking at the stone until it breaks. And if one of us falls, somebody else will pick up the axe. And that's no
we are now the
consolation.
fearsome
That's no
five,
consolation.
and
No.
this is no longer the Shill show. I think we had that vote, and we don't need Dick anymore.
Oh no,
I think
we've been running things just fine without you.
Yeah. Okay. Here. I'll.
Well, I think you make a really.
I'm about to go. I think I'm about to get booted.
Sorry.
No, I think you make a really.
Oh dear. It's. I know it's little consolation, but
No, but you make a valid point.
If you die for a cause such as this, we're all gonna go. We're all gonna go. Go for something righteous. And again, this is not to belittle the loss of your men. I send you all condolences and all the deep felt sorrow. But we're going to have to fight this war, and that means people are going to die, and it sucks.
I was looking at the names.
Numbers.
I was looking at the names because, I know a lot of the guys from editing videos and everything, and I went through the names, and it feels terrible, but I
so sorry.
breathed a sigh of relief
So sorry.
because I didn't recognize any of the names.
But then realizing that each of those names has a family, and I know.
And I think
I've covered wars for 30 years.
So
it never gets any better. It never gets any better.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's pain. It's a vacuum that is bottomless, that will suck everything.
How do you deal with it though because you've covered it, right? How do you deal with it when you notice that kind of public interest in whatever war you're covering has dwindled? How do you deal with that kind of disconnect from what you want to do as a journalist and what you want to convey and what the world needs to hear, but you're also seeing what's being listened to? How do you deal with that kind of discord?
The worst frustration of it for me is when it becomes entertainment, and that you lose focus and attention, not because the value of the war and the sacrifices being made aren't observed anymore, but it's let's turn to the other channel. What's on tonight? Is there something different we can just? That's the most egregious thing for me as a war correspondent. But I grieve for the guys, the names that you read, and I feel. And Greg, I know you're right there on the line with the guys, and it's deep and it's personal, and I don't diminish that at all in any way, in any capacity. But people are going to die in this war. More people are going to die in this war.
Yeah,
a lot more people are going to die in this war. Is it a death worth dying for? Are those innocents who are caught up in it, who have no concern in any of this? They just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when a shell comes through their apartment building and destroys their family. But it's going to keep happening, and it's going to keep happening for a while, and it's going to be awful, and it's going to be terrible. But
we're on the right side.
We're on the right side. There's no
Is there
question
not a
about it.
difference though in death for a cause versus death in vain?
Or a death sacrifice for nothing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is why. This is
These are the
why.
questions.
That's the big question, and that is why we must continue to stand with Ukraine. That is why we must do everything we
Yeah.
can to elect politicians that will stand with Ukraine, because it's very difficult to explain the cost that has been paid. And when I'm there with the guys on the front, they tell me very clearly, because I asked them, are you going to quit? I already know the answer. No. But then I always like to ask them why. And they always give 3 reasons. And they always rank them the same. In third, they're fighting for their borders, their language, their culture, their history, and their future. That's third. Second, they're fighting for their children, their grandchildren, their cousins, their brothers, their sisters that were needlessly invaded. But the number one reason that the soldiers of the front lines are fighting right now is not for their children and not for their language. It's for their fallen brothers and sisters. These guys made serious pacts together that they would fight for each other until victory. I have had hundreds of soldiers tell me, I will not go home. I will die here, because Oleg and Olga and Nikita and Natalia have died, and we made an agreement together. Therefore, we cannot allow those that have sacrificed their deaths to be in vain. We must stand support until victory. And victory means destruction of the Putin regime. That's what victory is. It's not just back to our borders. And we, guys, that place is leveled to the ground. Nobody's moving back to Bakhmut. Nobody's moving back to Avdiivka. Nobody's moving back to Thurs. There's nothing to move back to. We'll have to help them rebuild their nation. And that's great. It will be beautiful to help with that as a global society. But if you think we can just push back, or they leave and you have an accord, in 10 years, we'll be facing the same thing again. There must be a defeat.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. And I mean, Greg, with what you're saying, I mean, I know, I mean, everyone on this panel, like, I mean, Dick, you spoke to Pete regularly.
Oh, yeah.
Greg, you guys spoke like every day. You were like BFFs. But
we were brothers from another mother, as Pete would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that from him quite a few times in video messages and stuff. But you know, that's exactly what he would say.
That's what he would say. But I mean, you guys know that, and it's something I always joked with Pete about when he went to Kiev for interviews. I told him, you can't be away from the front because your mind is on the front. That's where your mind is, because that's where your brothers are. And I have a friend he's Ukrainian. From 2014 to 2023, he was fighting. He quit the military due to medical reasons because of too many injuries. In all that time, in those 9 years, he never took leave.
Yeah.
Because he could not take leave, because his mind is, if I'm not here, who's going to keep them safe? These are my brothers in arms.
Yeah.
And
they're out there and I'm not, can't happen.
Exactly. I mean, Shum, our commander that we're working with, he was on leave. He went to Lviv. He went on leave. He wasn't taking time off. He was working full time. We were like, hey, sorry to bother you, but we've got a car coming in. Can you get it? Sorry to bother you, but can you fetch this? This guy was working full stop. Even when they're away from the front, they're working. And that is a level. Yeah. I mean, the burnout that. That's the thing. The burnout that we're going to see is insane. And that is.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
even
going
after
to be.
even after
Yeah.
victory.
broken society. And I mean, I know Helena, my co-director, she's busy taking a course on how to rehabilitate prisoners of war.
Yeah.
She started working on that, and she told me it's traumatizing. That
When you-
There's
Yeah,
as
when you
much
reach out to me-
rebuilding.
when you reach out to me for the number, I'll try and get you in touch with Paul Nyland, who runs what is it? Ukraine Live, I believe. I'm gapping just briefly here. It's late. But he runs a call center for mental health, primarily for soldiers, but also civilians who have been caught up in this. So, but yeah, mental health is obviously very important, and so I'd be happy to get you in touch with
it's
Paul.
gonna
who
be a
maybe
big
point
thing,
you
yeah.
to other-
Oh yeah.
Oh, huge. And Greg, when you talk about willingness of the soldiers, there's a whole generation of Ukrainian soldiers that were rotated onto the front line during the Minsk years. And they were, so every soldier had heard a shot fired in anger. A lot of those guys are gone. Like a lot of those guys are gone. And so now you're going to have to play catch up. But I like to lean towards optimism. I think the mobilization law is working about as well as we can. I don't say as well as we can. It could always be better. But
that's all I'm saying, brother. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's better than it used to be. And I really do think I guys, go check out that poem if you're not familiar with it. Ivan Franko. I mean, there's a will in Ukraine.
For whom Ivana Frankivsk is named.
Ivan Franko.
Yeah.
Ivan Franko. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, his name was Ivan Franko.
No, you're right. I'm just saying there's a place named after.
Oh, I'm
him.
sorry. I confused myself.
Phil,
the poem is so Ukrainian. It's so Ukrainian that we're gonna keep fighting, and those of us who fall, we will bury them, we will mourn them, we will remember them, we will honor them. I mean, the thing we say on a daily basis. Slava Ukrainia, Geroyam Slava.
Yeah.
It's we're going to fight this prick. We're going to beat the Russian Empire because it's the right thing to
ingrained in the
do.
Ukrainian culture.
Oh yeah.
It is deeply ingrained in Ukrainian culture, and I don't think Putin understood that. I don't think Putin certainly the West didn't understand it.
You remind me of it actually reminds me of this like meme I saw where it said Russia's biggest mistake was sending an army of slaves to liberate free people. And I was like, that's it. There's a difference,
Don't
it's
despair. I know it's hard, but we can't despair.
Yeah.
We have to. We'll deal with the mental health afterwards. We'll deal with the specifics. We have to win, and that means people are going to die. But
yeah, it is.
anyway,
Yesterday,
Rick.
Greg knows
Go ahead,
this.
Jana.
Like yesterday was the
maudlin and it's late.
Greg, yesterday was the 4-month anniversary of Pete's death, and I plan on posting about it on PK socials, but I got lost in
3 months.
On this
3
months. Sorry, yeah,
3 months.
on this time loop of watching Pete videos. But it reminded me of that poem, like "Death Be Not Proud," and I'm just like, that's the thing. Because so it's kind of that thing where I'm like, what, yeah, it's bad, but there is I almost want to say fight. Like it's a righteous fight. Yeah.
And Slava Ukraina, Geroyam Slava. Slava actually in this one means memory to the heroes. when they say that. Is what they're trying. It's even though Slava means glory.
The Slavic languages
Literally,
don't translate properly to English.
Correct. But it's into memory.
Word. It's not
the memory of the heroes.
the legacy, maybe
Legacy and memory, yes. And Phil, what I would say is we actually agree, but where I think our differentiation comes on mobilization is, for me, mobilization is a turnkey product, and a turnkey solution, meaning from the moment you receive the letter in the mail, which is how it is now officially done, the letter in the mail, you then go through your medical checks. You then are put into the army at a certain position. You then go to your training, which happens throughout Ukraine in different places. And then you are deployed to do a particular job. That for me is mobilization, not just the process of getting bodies. For me, I'm looking at the turnkey from the letter in the mail to the point where they are fighting on the front line. For example, one of the reasons I say that mobilization can be made better is I can tell you for a fact right now that there are many times guys that are mobilized that have certain skill sets, such as high tech. They could be put into drone warfare. They could be put into vehicle maintenance. They could be put into driver. They've been a driver in their civilian life for 20 years. And the next thing, they're on a zero. They're on a zero with a Kalashnikov. For me, that's a failure. We need to not only, we need to get guys into their level of expertise where their training can go quicker and it can be a better, I don't want to use the word product, but a better soldier, a better hero for Ukraine.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you there too.
Yeah. I mean, Halia spoke about it with the guys in the drone battalion. Most of them are engineers and have tertiary education. And now they're producing drones.
Yeah. Well, welcome Dave Worley. He's been touring the States, normally lives in the UK and joins us on the shows. How's it going, Dave?
Hello. Is my mic working?
Yeah.
No,
Unfortunately, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I very quickly just wanted to run off a few things because it has been a while since I've been on. First and foremost, I am very sorry to hear about Pete. I like that guy.
Yeah,
I think we all did. Secondly, hello to Slavie. She's still there. And Phil. Haven't met you two yet. My camera may or may not flash on and off now and again, but that is Nick's fault. That brings me on to my third point, actually. Hell hath frozen over. I'm going to agree with Nick on something, which is that Zelensky is reaching that sort of Churchillian level. But he obviously would need to actually win in order to get to that point. And the definition of that is unclear. And lastly, the US election stuff, it has been very interesting because I have been boring, as it were. And staying with all sorts of Democrat-leaning families, Republican-leaning families, and getting their opinion. And I was with a Republican elderly couple in New York. It was a very clear moment. We only turned the audio on to the TV for about 10 seconds, and it was the moment that Biden had messed up, and he had said, I fully support Vice President Trump, or something. It was just like, even I can't deny that that's really bad. Like, and they've done the right thing. I can't remember who said it, whether it was like a Bill Maher thing, a Joe Rogan thing. Somebody had said at some point, whoever replaces their candidate first wins the election. I sincerely hope that is the case, and I hope we have our first female US president.
Yeah, amen.
Dave, Dave, I don't know if you're going to bail. So, and if you tell anybody that, and I'm going to have Dick turned off the clippings, so there's going to be no evidence of this. But if you're in the U.S., you need a place to stay. Give me a buzz. Even if you want someone to show you around, at least my area, give me a buzz. I would love to meet you in real life and hang with you for a little bit. So,
Vance was there 2 weeks ago, but he did clean the couch, so it's okay.
What part of the states? Yeah, broadly, what part of the states?
Massachusetts.
I'm in Pittsburgh
Lovely
at
part.
the minute.
Oh,
New England in
Boston.
New England in the fall, Dave. Take him up on it.
Yeah.
I'm not far away from Greg. Probably closest to Greg, I believe. So,
But aren't we scheduled?
Oh no,
for
I
lunch?
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're near Greg. Sure. Okay, I understand. I try to do a nice thing. And
David, how long are you in this area?
until November 3rd.
That's what I thought.
And
We were talking about sometime in October having a lunch. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
cool.
Was
I
it
didn't
dinner?
want to meet you anyway.
I will meet David.
Yeah. You guys, if there's 30 minutes free when you guys are together hanging out, we should stream it up,
That would be cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
right?
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, it's late here. It's midnight, and I haven't eaten, so I'm going to run.
Okay.
Check out shameless plug. Posted kind of a 12-minute, as I said at the beginning, a 12-minute kind of update of my impressions of the last week, and then tomorrow we'll have another roughly an hour-long interview with Dylan Burns about what it's like to be a streaming young journalist starting out on his career in Ukraine and news gathering from the field. So check it out. We're still trying to grow our audience, and so any help and support would be great. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, miscreants and lovely ladies.
That was
good evening.
well said.
Be well, Greg. I'm sorry I missed you when you transited through Kiev. And Nick, do please reach out and maybe we can collaborate on something.
Yeah,
So,
I'll make sure you get the wrong numbers. No worries.
It's all good. It's all good. And I'm so sorry. And my condolences to you. So
I didn't know
thanks,
then
guys, for
that
your
you
time.
had family,
I know I
so-
yap. I know I
Yeah.
yap. Please apologize. Please accept my apology for capitalizing on your time. So
That's quite all right.
at least
You've known
some
you've
of it
known
was
me for
useful.
about a minute, and you're leaving already. This is the effect
Nate,
that I
Nate,
have.
That's the
It's
usual. That's
Nate, it's because you came in that I feel okay to leave. So it's nothing about you. It's nothing personal. I'm just trying to keep a nice balance with the show.
Yeah,
And
he's
I
thinking,
know
another
I'm almost
loudmouth showed up.
exit
Now I
stage
can
left.
go. Yeah.
No,
you,
yeah,
you don't have to be
it-
modest. You lasted 30 seconds longer than most, so you don't have to be.
Well, I know when I can take my opportunity to exit stage right and actually get actually get a meal because I've been working on the show all day. So thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Do take care. Oh, and now we're getting an air raid siren. So all the more reason.
Oh, dear Lord.
Take care.
Thank you, Luke Skywalker. Yes, Mark Hamill. Yes, I know. All right, guys. Take care.
Take
See you,
care,
Phil.
Phil.
Bye,
Thanks for
Phil.
joining us, man.
So,
All right.
Dick, can I host for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I would like to hear from Slavie, being Ukrainian, living in the
In
United
America.
States, learning about American politics, hearing all of the stuff we've been spewing, and it just kind of comes second nature to us being Americans and talking about the politics. And this has been a lot of our topic tonight because it is key for Ukraine. So as a Ukrainian immigrant and you're here in the States, how do you filter all of this?
You're muted, Slavie.
All right, sorry about that. Thanks so much, Jana. As far as I understand, it's never been this insane. I mean, Trump wasn't around, and now he is. And I think the realization more as a Ukrainian to realize how much the West and America has failed Ukrainians, it hits hard.
Do you ever
I don't think of this country as what I thought it would be when I came over here when I was little.
do you ever get in awkward conversations with somebody when you say, yeah, I'm from Ukraine, and they're like, well, why are we giving and blah, blah? Like you get that MAGA response. You ever been involved in a moment like that?
Usually in real life, people are a little bit, they hold back rather than being all
They're not such fucking
crazy.
keyboard warriors. Sorry there, Greg.
Yeah. But I had conversations that, the money should be spent on America. And I'm like, well, no, that's not how it works. There was one time that I started yelling at them because they didn't understand their own system, how their own government works.
There are so many homeless people. Okay, have you tried having them live in Abraham tanks?
Do that. That's exactly what I say. I'm like, give them a tank, give them a Bradley, see how that goes. Don't recommend it.
Yeah. But you've also got that whole thing with the states are very autonomous in a lot of ways. So when somebody brings up homelessness as an argument for why are we supporting Ukraine financially, well, isn't that for your own local people to be figuring out? Like that's how it works here, even in my Canadian city of like 30,000 people. We very much locally, like our food banks are community driven. They're not funded by government and stuff and all this whatnot that we've got going on, right? You know?
Another thing, I've been here in the United States, it will be for 15 years. It's quite a time, but they've always had a border problem. They've always had this.
Exactly.
And these people, these Americans that were born here, MAGA or whatever, how much they don't understand about their own country is mind-boggling.
If you go back in time to the early 1980s, Cheech Moran from Cheech and Chong did a movie called Born in East LA, and he got deported by accident and he had to sneak across the border with a whole whack of other people to get back home. And I mean, that's in the early 80s. It's so prevalent they made a movie about it. Right?
I mean, I know Mercado was talking about it on his stream on the border issue, like how long that's been a voting issue.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? Immigrants, when you get your citizenship, you have to do a test, right? And Americans don't. So it's immigrants are smarter about America than Americans.
Yeah. Well, you ever seen some of those?
Yeah,
you ever see some of the talk shows and they interview people and can you name a city that's in Europe? New York. Like it's just
Not even that. I've seen like videos a while back where it was like YouTube videos where it was like this person takes the American citizenship test and they couldn't do it. It's not even just like global, not like
no offense to Americans here, because this applies in Canada as well. We have the same thing, right? No, I don't mean to be that guy, right?
Well, in Canada, I think because before I came to America, I'm a dual citizen of Canada, and I think the kids have to sing "Oh Canada."
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay, not anymore. That finally died. Yeah.
I had to. I was little, so
yeah, so did I. I was born in 70, right? So I had that for a while and whatnot. Yeah. And every 4 years they changed the lyrics to "Oh Canada" because a certain group of people in Canada get bitchy and everybody has to finally agree. So we changed the words a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. I'll leave it at that. I'm not doing it. But anyway,
Canada has a lot of Ukrainians, but deep-rooted Ukrainians.
Oh yeah.
So thanks to Canada, the culture, Ukrainian culture has survived when Russia tried to erase it through Holodomor and all the genocides. Canada kept Ukrainians and kept the culture.
Oh
alive.
yeah, all across.
It's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I spoke to my Ukrainian teacher when I still had money to pay for Ukrainian lessons, but I spoke to her and she told me, she's like, the interesting thing is you see a dialect difference between Ukrainian in Canada and Ukrainian in Ukraine because they kind of develop differently. You've almost got this generational gap between Ukrainian in Canada and
You don't
the Ukrainian
understand the
now.
Ukrainian Canadians because it's like
Yeah, because it's
very
like
old Ukrainian.
it's
very
well,
old
it's the same
Ukrainian,
as
yeah.
it's the same as French Canadians. People from
Yeah.
France come over and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, man.
And I mean, in South Africa, like Namibia used to be a German colony, and then it was gifted to South Africa by the British for our help in the war. And but there's still a big German-speaking population in Namibia. And a woman I know went to Germany because she grew up in a German family in Namibia, went to university, and then she went to Germany to work. And she was speaking, and they literally asked her, "Why are you speaking Nazi German?" Because she was speaking 1940s German, because it didn't develop the same way that German in Germany developed.
Right.
So yeah.
Here, I want to catch up on a few shout outs and then we have a little bit more free time. My son has made it very clear that he would like me to just leave him alone. So I am not needed right now. So, yeah, there was no uncertain terms about it as well. Okay, so let me get caught up here. Where was I? We got Rose Rowley in the chat there. You guys do a good job. Thank you very much. We got Matt Leach Music in with a super chat. We got Johnny Nedregard. I know I'm getting the guard part wrong because it's got a little doohickey over the top, and I'm sure I screwed that up. It's Norwegian Krona, I do believe. At Rick the Ukrainian, do you ever eat or sleep? You know what, Johnny? This is my actual thought. You know the old conspiracy theory where Paul McCartney was killed in a car crash and they had a replacement, right? What actually has happened is that conspiracy should go for Rick the Ukrainian, but he wasn't killed. He was injected with antimantium. And instead of having killer claws where he can go out and just slay people, he now no longer needs to eat or sleep. All he needs to do is stream. He is the streaminator.
Needs a little work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll have to work on it, but I'm sure the treatment will be better than the outline, right? You know, we'll get there. We got Yvonne Way, super interesting stream. Thanks, Yvonne. SSW Custom Sewing, support the pro-Ukrainian YouTube channels. Great shout. Dunk on You, gifting out 5 memberships. Rick the Ukrainian gifting out 5 memberships. Thanks, Rick, buddy. Thank you very much. Cats coming in with one. Hey, everyone. Not been watching a lot of streams, but it's good to have you around, Cats. Thank you. Niles Edom in the chat gifting out 5 memberships. Mr. Nobody gifting out 5 memberships. I do believe we're doing the dance of 5 today, everybody. Huge thanks. Love it. We got Loch Ness Monster coming in with a tip of no less than $6.66. Thank you, everybody, for the show. Support Ukraine. Watching from one of my summer water spots in lovely Crater Lake, Oregon. Oh, dude, Crater Lake is one of the most beautiful places on earth. I've been there a few times and I absolutely love it. Enjoy the time. And thanks for the tip. And then we had Dunk on You with a $20 direct tip as well. Howdy, folks. Slavie, Ukraine. Heroem Slava. Thank you very much. And then I got to switch over to Ko-Fi or whatever it's is, and Doggy threw one in, and it's a happy birthday to Janine message. And all the happy birthday Janine donations and super chats are going direct to her after the show to make sure she can go and do something while she's over there. You know,
That's
maybe
awesome.
get some sushi and that's Starsky. You know, it usually comes down to fish. It's not my problem. Thanks, everybody. Huge thanks. where do you want to go? It's let's see. I think it's Slavie's turn to direct us into something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Should we debunk what Trump said that Russia wins wars all the time? And they don't.
Yeah, it's what they
that
do.
It's
Remember?
what they do.
Yeah.
That they beat Napoleon. No, they didn't. It was really cold, so that's all what happened. That they beat Hitler. Not really,
my
not they didn't.
God.
It was actually the Red Army, which was the Soviet Union made out of 15 republics. Ukrainians, millions of Ukrainians were actually the biggest, most people of that army, and Russians were actually very small, shitty part of it. So that's the only reason why, and of course America and allies helped to beat Hitler.
And they had to deal with Hitler prior to that. Hitler betrayed them and invaded. Stalin got so freaked out by it that he got drunk for 2 weeks in his office because he's like, how could Hitler betray me? Because they were going to divvy up Poland and all this other stuff. So everybody seems to forget that Stalin started on the other side of the war. And it was only after he got betrayed, he was like, my American brother, it was a simple typo. I did not realize I was going to Germany. Do you need a hand? And they were on the defensive the whole time.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
Slavie, there was this joke with one of my friends on, he's English, and he was just saying, he retweeted that specific tweet that I like, where it said like, Russia didn't lose to Napoleon, didn't lose to Hitler. And this guy's English, he just said, neither did the UK. I'm just like, well, if that's our standards, you know.
It's just so ridiculous. The previous former, maybe future president of the United States is spewing revisionist Russian propaganda. Again, another American politics that is so fucked up. That is not why I came to United States. I came to United States to get away from Russia.
Yeah.
Not.
I mean, and the interesting thing is, like, here in South Africa, we were targeted. Well, not me, because I'm South African. I wasn't targeted, but the Ukrainian Association was. Sputnik dug up a photo that's a year old, where the Ukrainian Association, like in Cape Town, were at the Mandela statue, and they kind of put the Ukrainian flag on the statue on 24th of Feb. No one said anything till that thing was published in Sputnik.
Yeah.
And then one of the pro-Russian political parties picked that up and was like, this is so disrespectful and everything. I'm like, if you actually understand where Ukrainians are coming from, you understand that Mandela is seen as kind of like an equivalent to what Ukrainians went through in gulags, you know, political prisoners went through. So this guy was like, this is so disrespectful. It's a recent display. And they're like, the media ran with it, but it's like just the media that you know, like, because we know who owns what outlet, right?
Right.
And all the outlets that ran this is owned by a specific guy who used to be part, or who is still part of the ANC, like a member of the ANC, with people are aware of his financial lack of condition, and that he is quite in Russia's pocket. So this article started playing, like it was covered by several people on that website, even showed up in like Zimbabwe Today or some other news like that. And you're just like, oh, okay, we can see exactly where the money is going. And then we started getting attacked on Twitter. Because we said we released a statement, and we started getting attacked on Twitter. And you know it's a targeted attack because you eventually, like at the start, you think like this can't be targeted. Maybe it's just a bunch of people being pissed, right? So you reply, and then eventually you realize, but you're not interacting with someone who is like actually reading what you're saying.
Right.
And it was kind of clear that this is a troll farm because it was only on Twitter. It wasn't on our Instagram. It wasn't on our Facebook. It was only on Twitter. And one of my friends did research on it, and he started looking in a bit. And there's a troll farm, not I think it's about 45 minutes away from me, where it's located. Yeah. So one of my friends is gathering info, and he's going to go to the media about it. But not 45 minutes away from me, where you can hire these guys and they will promote you on social media with whatever messaging you want.
Right.
And I'm like, not in my country.
I want to quickly, to Slavie's point, I would like to point out that exactly 7 years ago, last week, 7 years and 7 days ago, it was Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico. And one of the candidates for president in the United States today was president at the time and was asked about aid to Puerto Rico. And he said exactly what the MAGAs tend to say, which was, we have to limit aid.
But
yes, there's a very...
I'm not even American and I know this.
Yes.
Exactly.
He had to be corrected and explained. It had to be explained to the president after he said, we're not helping Puerto Rico because we have to limit foreign aid, that Puerto Rico was actually part of the United States and they all had passports. He apparently didn't believe it, but finally he showed up for a photo opportunity, started tossing brawny paper towels out into the audience, and then said, we've given all the aid we can to Puerto Rico, thanks, and bailed.
Wow.
Oh, my word.
Okay, we got to get Greg in for a little primer. We got a little clip to show here. What do you think there, buddy?
I just want people to see how things roll. So this is coming out within about the last 90 minutes, and this is the news rolling through Ukraine right now. I'm getting messages from Ukraine, and it's just interesting.
All right, here we go. Let me bring it up here. I'm going to go full screen so everybody gets the full effect here. There we go.
I don't know what will be after elections and who will be the president, because your country and your people is right, extremely right, that they decide who will be the president. But I've got from Donald Trump very direct information that he will be on our side, that he will support Ukraine. And there are so many details, I think, which he was very interested to hear from me, directly from me.
So I like to use things like this as a landmark, and that's why I sent you that video clip, because that's not us giving an opinion.
Right.
It's about 90 minutes ago on Fox News. That is President Volodymyr Zelensky making that statement. So what do we do with that? We hear it, we index it, and now we watch.
Yeah. But
I can tell you right now, that news clip is going through Ukraine like wildfire right now. My buddies were sending me, Greg, what happened? What happened?
What's the effect to a soft line Republican who supports Ukraine now going, oh, so maybe my party won't leave them for dead? Where is there? There's a dynamic here, isn't there?
We were right. We were right all along.
Yes, and so, guys, it's chess.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all chess. It's trying to think ahead 3 moves. If you want to be a good chess player, just think ahead 3 moves, and you'll be a pretty decent chess player. And the game is being played right now, trying to win the election for the president of the United States from Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. They're both doing everything that they possibly can do to win the election. That's what happens when two candidates are competing. But it's just very interesting. Now, President Zelensky has stated, no, I've got direct confirmation that he'd be supporting. So all I'm saying is just watch it. That's all we can do. We're not in the room with them. We're not in a private meeting whispering in Zelensky's ear, hey, don't believe anything he says. He's just trying to get elected and he's playing you like a fiddle. Okay? I didn't say that, by the way. I did not say that. But Donald Trump will do anything right now to get a vote.
Yeah.
Anything. And I just, when I see stuff like, I didn't know this. It was just sent to me right now by my buddies. I'm going, what? We've been talking the whole thing. So we have to just pay attention and just watch. Because now, if he has been told that and the support does not come. Yeah, exactly.
The other possibility is if Trump wins, we just rename Ukraine Hawaii and tell him that Hawaii's under attack. And I have zero doubt in my mind.
I mean, yeah, good idea.
I mean, if he didn't know Puerto Rico, I think we could.
I mean,
Duncan
will he
Stewart.
know that Hawaii is American? Like, I mean, it is, and it's not part of like.
Okay, call it Florida, but the problem is when he goes there, it's like, where's my house, Mar-a-Lago? And it was like, well.
Thank you, Whitefishy. Yes, it needs to be explained. And Duncan Stewart, I saw your message there. 5 moves is better. Take it from a guy playing for decades. I'm sure 5's kind of tough for me, but I try 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more you can think ahead, the better you are. But the bottom line is, I sent that video file to Dick because I have to sign off in a second to go for a dinner with my wife and some friends, and I want you guys to be aware that I didn't even know about that clip. It was sent to me by Ukrainians.
Is this from today?
Yes.
From a few hours ago,
Okay,
he said,
press
like,
today.
It
like
just
10 minutes ago,
happened
like,
90 minutes ago or
Okay.
so, 2 hours at the most, on an interview with Fox.
What show was that? It was
He was on Fox News being.
It was Fox. The show doesn't matter. It was on Fox.
That's what I meant. Thanks, but yeah.
That's funny.
But the point being, guys, I'm sitting here on a show and we're talking about Ukraine, and we've been talking about this very topic for 2 hours, and I get the message from Ukraine going, Greg, did you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just putting it out there. I don't trust Donald Trump as far as I can throw him.
Oh, agreed.
Mhm.
And
Agreed.
that's about a millimeter.
It's not
And
far-
I hope, and I believe President Zelensky is just playing the chess game. That's what I'm hoping for.
I
And
bet
he is
we'll get.
aware.
I bet we'll get confirmation he's playing the game in a speech coming up that will just have some very clever wording in it, so that if you're actually paying attention, you know,
in
right?
that brilliant
100%.
Zelensky way, those speeches.
Yes, he is freaking
May
good
I-
at that. You know,
May I throw this out there as a compliment for Ukraine and Ukrainians? You ready? I received that video clip from Ukrainians. So they are paying more attention,
right?
and they're learning and trying to be more educated on how to fight for their nation. They're watching and looking for any sign of hope. So for me, it's just, honestly, it's an encouragement to, it just reconfirms what I already know, but I hope it confirms for people that are watching. These Ukrainians, man, are smart. They are fighting for their very existence, and they're looking everywhere. I mean, they're seeing stuff I'm not even seeing, and I've got all these screens around here with news rolling. So
these dudes,
it's impressive.
these dudes decided, hey, you know what? We better design some missile action because we're going to have to do it and whatnot. And they simply just did. You know, you don't just pull that from your balloon knot. You know,
Cheryl Waitley, great comment, and you talk about massive supporter of Ukraine. Clinging to any hopium at this point, yes. And you know, I like for me, and you guys know, I like to bring reality and then gain hope from the reality, because we know exactly where to hit to help Ukraine. But additionally, there is a Bible verse, and I'll drop this on you, especially now that Phil has left. But hope, it says this: hope does not disappoint.
Yeah.
It's really powerful little statement. Hope does not disappoint. And if you just look at that phrase, hope does not disappoint. Any type of hope we can get for Ukraine is good. Any type of hope that we can get,
especially for
that
the
there is
people.
a better tomorrow, is good. So hope does not disappoint. And if we logically look at it, if it does not disappoint, then it must appoint. So I'm going to jump off of Cheryl there and say, we're going to take some hope, and it's going to appoint some good things for Ukraine. And I just believe the best is yet to come, regardless.
Good shout.
Yep.
All right, buddy. Cool.
Thank you, guys. Slavie, God bless you over there. Nice to see you. Thank you, Nick. Nice to see you. And we've been talking, and everybody, we're going to get connected, brother, and do a show.
Will, I sent you a friend request, which I haven't heard back. I don't know. I'm sure you just haven't checked your Discord.
Ignore it.
Oh, it's on Discord. Okay,
Ignore
sorry.
it.
I will check that. Thank you.
Ignore it.
David Worley, you're in the great state of Pennsylvania. Welcome. The Commonwealth, rather, but of Pennsylvania.
Very important for the election, Pennsylvania, as well.
David Worley, let's sidetrack for 1 minute, because I'm reading the chat where everybody is excited because Dick's going to go longer. When the man that's going to buy your lunch says, "Welcome to the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania," your statement should be, "Yes, it's a great Commonwealth. Where are we going to lunch?" I look forward to meeting you, buddy.
And how is Nick going to pay for it?
Well, he has sent me a friend request on Discord, so I will get some of my
unsending.
No. I will get some of my Ukrainian.
I recommend this train of thought.
Hit his Bitcoin wallet, no problem.
I recommend this train of thought because I send Nick the bill all the time, so I do believe there's merit to this behavior.
And Jana, as always, nice seeing you. Thank you.
Nice seeing you too.
Dick Dawson, thank you for everything, brother. And all the guys out on the Shills, thank you to the moderators. They do an amazing job, dude.
Damn right.
And I try to learn from you, and as well, I have a great crew developing. Just listen, a lot of people love Ukraine, and we're going to stand do Peremoga until victory. So thank you, guys. Be blessed.
Awesome. Oh, love it.
Have a good one.
You too.
Take it easy, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So yeah, I've got another 20 minutes or so before we have to completely sign it right off.
I'm gonna sign off as well.
Are you?
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to too, actually. So
Oh, well, we might as well call it done then. All right. You know, I can hear that somebody's stirring, and I'm gonna have to kick into parent mode soon. That's why I knew there was a countdown coming. So here, let's just do a little round table goodbyes and let everybody do their thing. We'll start with Dave. We'll work bottom to top here.
Lovely to be back. I did see a comment in the live chat saying, "Who is this guy?" Sorry, I did present this for about 2 years before you came along. And so, yeah, welcome one and all. But yeah, it's good to be back. I will be back more regularly when I'm in the UK, which is an awkward time for streaming, but normally I'm busy at this time. So
yeah,
hey, we'll get the ball rolling in the next month or so.
Yeah, like every channel needs a Bart Simpson, and we have one too. So you know.
Hey, but Nick's very welcome. As we keep saying, everyone is welcome.
God, I gave him the link once. He just won't. Stop clicking it.
Like it's because I don't have any friends. I don't have any friends, so I just have to come here.
Shocker.
No, but No, but you have some fake ones. So, yeah.
Dick, I'm sensing a little hostility here, and I'm thinking that maybe you told them who I am before I came on, because this isn't normal behavior people do with strangers. But
yeah, no, I didn't hand out a briefing at all. I didn't.
I don't believe you.
So, what do you think, Slavie?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody, all the audience. Thank you so much. Thank you for donating. Thank you to everybody on the panel. You guys do absolutely brilliant, amazing work for Ukraine. Keep it up. Guys, please keep sharing stories about Ukraine, the truth. It's so important right now to do that. Keep calling your governments. Say that you stand with Ukraine to victory. Also subscribe to my channel. I did part 1 and part 2 is coming out video on all the events that happened in the past week. It's jam-packed. First video is 15 minutes. Second video is gonna be 20 minutes. So it's a lot of information in there. So guys, please subscribe, and thank you so much. Slava Ukraini.
Slava. Yeah, everybody, the link to our channel is right there in the live chat. So click it, get over it, get subbed. Absolutely, positively. Jana, little, goodbye from yourself and the Project Constantine crew.
Goodbye from myself. I'm just kidding. Just want to say, as always, thanks for having me on. And I've been going through, I finally did some modding again on the PK YouTube channel, just going through all the comments and everything. And I started crying because everyone was so nice. Just thank you, everyone. Thank you for continuing to support us and for continuing to support Ukraine. And I think we should just, stay the course because we are on the right side of history with this. So thank you.
Yeah. Spread the word and make sure it's in everybody's consciousness. Nick, what do you think, buddy?
So my show, as most of you know, is In Time, and you can find it at youtube.com.
Not on time.
So it's not on time, but it is in time. And we cover news. We like to think that we do things a little bit differently. First of all, we're kind of a community organized, but the other thing is that we compare and contrast various news organizations and try to figure out what's going on. We use social media and do a lot of breaking news, even ahead of Reuters and other very reputable news sources. So we're very proud of that. We've also got interviews with Lieutenant General Benjamin Hodges, and obviously Starsky is on quite frequently, and Commander McMillian is in fact a host on In Time. So we're very proud of the work we do. But all that notwithstanding, I think something Greg said, and I referenced it, but wanted to get it correct because I thought what he said was very important, and I wanted to get it accurately. Kennedy gave one of the best inaugural speeches in the history of the United States, and in it, he was talking about Russia, who everybody was terrified of at the time. And I don't think you would necessarily apply this to Russia in the same way, but I think it's worth quoting. And if we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future. And we are all mortal. And so when we think about countries like Ukraine, there is far more that we have in common with them than not. And if we don't recognize them as brothers and sisters, we don't have brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Good words, dude. Really good. Big thanks to our team. We got Annette on the Shills account, Chris Lundy, Super Chat, Matt. Shout out to our mod Shana, who got hit by the remnants of Helen there, and there's some power issues and other things in town. It's not the greatest. She didn't get too badly hit, but badly enough that sadly she's not with us here, right? Remember, as Commander McMillian would say, and Slavie did as well there, especially in election season right now, make sure that your local, regional, and national levels of government, whatever you may call them, know that your voice is to support Ukraine. Stuff it down their throats.
To victory.
Make sure that they know that they are losing your vote without it. It's a very important thing. Let me just double check. I think we're still all pretty much caught up. Yes, we're good. Big thanks to everybody for joining us today and watching and all the support and, shout out super chats and direct donations and everything. It's more appreciated than I could ever surmise into words. It's just not going to work out. Happy birthday again to Janine because, well, it's a happy birthday moment. So happy birthday. And we'll see you all soon for another stream very soon. Click the like and share and subscribe buttons. I hate this part, but the subscribe button's a good one. The like button's a good one. The share button's a really good one because when you tell others on social media to show up and see us, YouTube goes, wow, you brought outsiders to the fold. You must be doing well. And maybe we'll hit 10,000 subs soon.
And it's
We're
social
still not at
currency.
10,000.
Just it every time it goes, I'll save this for PubChat, but it's yeah.
I just want to say it's social currency. You have an abundance of it that you can use it. Use it. Use
Yeah.
it.
True,
please.
true. Like
Costs you
create like
nothing,
10,
but
create like
it's worth
10 YouTube
everything.
accounts and like it.
Exactly. So we'll give the final word of the day to Nick because he'll probably fuck it up.
You're welcome. You are so loved here, Nick. You're so
Wow.
loved.
I did. Well, no, because he knows I'm going to have to say it, which is Dick is right. You like the show, you like the channel. What's going to keep it going is telling your friends about it. And you're not only, it doesn't cost you a thing. You want a super chat? That's great. Nobody's saying don't super chat. But you know what? If you can't, you don't want to, whatever, just hit those buttons. And every content creator hates doing it, and they all do it. And for one reason, it actually does matter.
Yeah.
So, and everybody here, this takes work. It took all of us combined in our combined knowledge to get the show started about 30 minutes late.
What a joke
and
that
missing
is.
a guest. So it's not easy. The people who are good at it make it look easy. And Dick somehow also makes it look easy. I don't, but so if you like the content, take 2 minutes, like, subscribe, and share. That really does. It makes a difference.
And remember, fellow babies, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. We're out of here. Take care, everyone.
It's over. Go home. Go.